it is time for my final thought. Now, tragically on Monday, Baltimore County police officer Amy Caprio was killed after responding to a call to investigate a suspicious vehicle and discovered a robbery in progress. Now, the driver of the vehicle, 16-year-old Daunta Harris, ran her over and then abandoned the stolen vehicle a short time later. Now, Harris and his 3 accomplices are in police custody and being charged as adults. All of us here at Get Up DC offer our deepest condolences to Officer Caprio's family, friends, and fellow officers. She died heroically in the line of duty. Now, I took a moment yesterday to look at many of the posts commemorating her life to get a better sense of who she was. Unfortunately, what I came away with was disgust at some of the sentiments I saw expressed. The most disturbing, people twisting their brains to blame Colin Kaepernick, journalist Shaun King, and Black Lives Matter for Officer Caprio's killing, which presents a great opportunity for us today to destroy the false dichotomy of Black Lives Matter versus Blue Lives Matter. If being anti-police brutality makes me anti-cop, does being pro-cop make you pro-police brutality? Protesting police brutality doesn't make you anti-cop. It makes you anti-bad cop, the kind of cops that disgrace the memory of officers like Amy Caprio. Officer Caprio was not killed at a protest by activists. She died at the hands of criminals committing a crime. Criminals that will now be charged as adults and will likely spend whatever remaining life on this earth in distress detention. Guess what? I'm totally fine with that. But you know what doesn't happen in over 99% of accused police assaults? Any of that. You know what else doesn't happen? Knee-jerk defense of people who kill cops. We're not saying maybe he saw a gun, maybe he feared for his life, maybe he panicked, because there's very little opposition to the idea that blue lives matter. But this strong opposition to the fundamental principle that Black Lives Matter is a stain on this country. So instead of focusing on hatred, we should honor Officer Amy Caprio as the fallen hero that she is in her pursuit to make us all safer. At the end of the day, past all the accusations of race baiting and politicizing, what we all want is a better relationship between the police and the communities they serve. Killing cops makes it worse. Killing civilians makes it worse. You can be against both things, and you should be. We're going to continue this conversation on Facebook.